Hi, we're going to talk about some ways that you can use formulas in Google Sheets, particularly when dealing with text data. And just in case anybody doesn't understand what I mean by text data is just, we sometimes call it a string, but basically it's letter characters, it can include numbers, it can include punctuation and anything else. To me, numeric data is just numbers and decimal places and commas. So 200 that I've typed in here, that can be numeric data. It could be text data if I wanted to format it as that. But one way I think I would test is, so let's say if we have 200R here, because that's legitimate. So firstly, automatically numbers format to the right and text formats to the left. But one trick I sometimes use if you're not sure, if you say equals and then click on the cell and then use the star to show multiplies and say multiplies by 2, I will actually get a response for this one. I'm just zooming in a little bit. And if I then use replication, which is when you pull the formula or the data down, so you see this circle in the corner here, I'm going to hover over it, pull it down to here, I get an error because the number it was expected was numeric and it didn't work. So just in case there was any doubt, that's how you can check. Google Sheets pretty much treats anything that's just numbers as numeric by default. So let's delete this and get back to the text that we're actually talking about. So the data we have here today is Taught by Humans LinkedIn data. So we've been saving our posts to see how well they are performing, and maybe we want to run some analytics on how well they've performed. So the first thing I think is useful whenever we're using text data is to work out the length of the text data. So to write a formula, you start it with an equal sign. To use a pre-built function, you then start typing letters. So if I type in an L, I actually start getting suggestions here, and you can see the one I'm looking for is len, so length of a string. So string means text. So I can click on that, and you can see how it's come through here. It's the function name followed by a bracket, and it tells me what it wants. So just if you can't see this, there is a little question mark here, and you can click on that, and that's the help for this particular function. So it's looking for some text. So the text can be something I copy and paste in, or it can be linking to another cell, and that's what we're going to do here. So make sure you're clicked just after the bracket, and then click on this A3 cell. If you're having problems, you can just type in A3, and then I just want to remember to close my brackets, and I can hit enter. And you can see here that there are 490 characters in that cell. And I can do the replication again, which is if I hover over here and I wait until it goes to the cross, and then I double click. You see this one now is pointing to A4, but we have hit on a common issue, which is if there's any gaps, it doesn't replicate the whole way down. So what I'm going to do is just quickly check there's no more. Oh, there's a gap here. Delete all the ones that have gaps in them. So this is just good data practice anyway. These are the days we didn't post on social media, so that isn't great. But if I click here and I hit Command if you're on Mac and Control if you're on Windows, hold it down and press the up key. That will take me back to the last cell that had any data in it. I can then wait until the little cross comes and double click. And that has brought the formulas the whole way down to the last cell. So Command or Control and down to get to it. And you can see that's great. So we've got all of these here. I'm just going to, delete this row. I'm going to do some things. I'm going to just freeze the top column or top row. So click here and I'm just going to say freeze one row. And that means when I scroll, that stays here. So now I'm going to write in length so I know what that is. And then I'm just going to format. I'm going to click on this, say format paint, and click on the whole row. And it's now formatted it the way I wanted it. But this row B, I'm just going to say vertical align center and middle align center. There, I find that a bit easier to read. So we've now got the length. One thing to note is this one is particularly long, but another function we can use is trim. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So if we look here, you can see there's some spaces at the start and the end, and it's good for them not to edit the data particularly, but to actually make a copy of it. So if I now use this formula trim, you can see here that it says it removes the special character, removes space character, sorry. So we can say the data. So again, we've got this one. Oh, I actually just wanted trim. I've clicked on the wrong one. This is why I wondered why there was a number. So yes, so you can see here it just wants the text. So if I click on A2 again, A2, and hit enter, we get a slightly different response. You can see here there's nothing at the bottom, whereas this one had quite a bit at the bottom. And this one is right to the edge, whereas here the in starts a few characters in. But that's not really that useful unless we're going to copy and paste it somewhere else. But what I was going to show you is if I can combine formulas. So we've got this trim and we've got this length. So what I can actually do is equals trim of A2, and I can wrap a formula around that to use the actual output of that. So let's try here. We can put the length and then the brackets, and then press Command or Control and the right arrow, and then close the brackets, and we actually get, and it's autofilling, so yes, we do want to autofill. So we can see here, let's do the format painter again, click on the whole column, and then click on column D, just so it's tidy. So I'm going to call this trimmed length. And we can see here some of these are different. So let's just say difference, and we can say equals the length one minus the trimmed length. Oh, and we can replicate, so double click. And that's quite interesting. So we can see most of them are the same. Actually, all of them, other than the top one, are the same. So that's good. We don't have any extra work to do there. And the final thing I was just going to show that we can do, so if I take this text and let's just copy this bit into its own cell, and then let's also copy, so maybe you were saving your hashtags in a different column. So if we have, I'm just going to format, oh, that's not a good format. I'm just going to text wrap both of these, so highlight and text wrap, just so they're not so difficult to read. So if we have a cell and we want to combine them together, what we can do is say equals, click on the first one, and then use the and the next one. So let's do that, and then we'll format again. Just, I don't know why it's underlined, but anyway. Let's pull this out. So we've joined them together. You can see it's this plus this, but we've got this ugly just join here, which isn't great. So they're joined together. We might want to take a space. So how I can do that is by clicking here, using the quotation marks and a space in the middle and another and sign. So for joining text, we've got this interesting pattern where we have something. So you see these are cell references, then an and then the text is in string. The strings are text, so they can be in quotation marks and they can be anything. So it could be like, I could have a dash in here instead, but I'm just going to have a space for now. And if I hit enter, we can see this is a little bit more readable, but maybe we actually want to take a new line. And in case you didn't know, in the middle of text, if you want to take a new line in Google Sheets, the best way to do that is, I'm just going to show you in the middle of this. So say we wanted a new line at the end of this sentence, is to click on the text, and then on Mac, you want to hold down Option and hit enter, and keep holding down Option as many times as you want to hit, as many new lines as you want. So I always use Option. You can also use Command and enter. And if you're on Windows, you can use Control and enter, but you just have to be within the same cell. I'm going to leave that there because I actually kind of like the new line. So I'm just going to click off now. But if we want to start adding new lines in a formula, we can't just hold this and hit Command. It won't copy it through the way we want it. Oh, it has. Cool, that's worked. That's never worked for me before. But a tidier way to do that so that the formula actually looks better and can be read better is to delete this and to use character 10, which is just the character for a new line. So I'm actually going to add 2 new lines. And remember, I've added my ampersand or and sign in the middle. And now we've got the tidy gap that we wanted. And this formula looks a bit tidier than if there was an actual line break in the middle of it. And those are some simple formulas to find the length of some text in Google Sheets, to trim any white space that you need. We've also done combining 2 formulas together. And finally, if we want to actually combine some text together, how we can actually do this in Google Sheets. There are a lot more advanced text formulas which we will cover in another video.